Discover the incredible moment a waitress revealed a life-changing truth that stunned 100 diners. The storm crashed outside, a ferocious reminder of nature's might as it rattled the windows of Sarah's diner. But the tension inside was almost as palpable. The smell of fried chicken and fresh apple pie mingled with the electricity in the air. Sarah, a dedicated waitress with a warm smile and tired eyes, hurried between tables, ensuring each patron felt welcome. She was the heart of this small-town haven, a devoted single mother doing her best to carve a better life for her teenage son Jake. Tonight, however, the atmosphere darkened as a thunderstorm took over the skies, echoing the brewing discord in the diner. Tom, a rough-edged veteran with scars of war etched across his face, was deep in an argument with Greg, a brash newcomer whose silver spoons and expensive taste were a glaring contrast to the diner's humble charm. The clinking of forks and murmurs of conversation stilled as voices rose. "You think you're better than us, don't you?" Tom's voice cracked, eyes burning with unyielding pride. Greg shot back, his indignation spilling over. "This is a dump. You're stuck here forever." Sarah's heart raced as she watched the hostility unfold. Despite the noise of the rain, she couldn't ignore the waves of prejudice ripple through the diner. It wasn't merely an argument, it was a reflection of her town's struggles, the burden of economic disparities pushing good folks apart. "Everyone," she finally called out, her voice steady, cutting through the tempest. "We all have battles we're fighting." The diners turned their gaze toward her, surprise mingling with tension. She took a deep breath. "I've got 2 jobs, sleepless nights, and dreams for Jake to attend college. We can be stronger together. Don't let your pride be the wall that divides us." Her vulnerability struck a chord. Faces softened, and murmurs followed as patrons remembered their own burdens. Families of 4, veterans trying to adjust, and small business owners with dreams, each was grappling with their struggles, just like Sarah. Before she could lose momentum, she revealed her secret project, a scholarship fund for local youth. Slowly, she had saved enough tips to help deserving students like Jake achieve educational dreams. A stunned silence wrapped around the diner. Many had no idea of the sacrifices she made to keep hope alive. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. With the storm still raging outside, a new conversation began. Mutual respect sparked like lightning, illuminating old grievances. Would this shared understanding bring healing in a town divided by struggles? As the last echo of thunder rolled away, Sarah stood in the center of her diner, the place where her community came together. Each patron faced her, their eyes glimmering with questions unspoken. Would her story inspire them to forge new relationships? Or would past prejudices keep them from uniting? With hearts open, they braced for changes that might just reshape their lives forever. The moment hung in the air. A collective breath held as the diners processed Sarah's words. The tension began to evaporate, replaced by something warmer. Community spirit and understanding flickered to life like the dials of an old radio tuning in to the right frequency. Tom took a deep breath, his fists unclenching on the table. For the first time, he looked less like a soldier ready for battle, and more like a father, reflecting on the struggle that shaped him. "I didn't know you were doing that," he murmured, his voice softened, glancing at Sarah with newfound respect. Greg shifted uncomfortably, his bravado waning. "I guess we all think we have it worse than the next guy." He swallowed hard, then added, "But you're right. There's more to this place than I realized." The diner began to buzz with a different kind of energy. Plates clinked in a rhythm of acceptance, and snippets of conversation broke out, each story a reminder of the human condition binding them together. Families who had come in to escape the storm now found comfort in shared tales of sacrifice and resilience. "What if we worked together?" A voice chimed in from the back of the diner. Mary, a local baker whose sweets had charmed everyone's heart. "We could help Sarah organize events for the fund. A bake sale." Someone shouted, and laughter erupted. The idea spread like wildfire. Others chimed in, offering ideas: car washes, yard sales, dinner nights. Even the teenagers, previously on their phones, perked up, excited at the prospect of being part of something bigger. As each suggestion was tossed around, Sarah felt a rush of gratitude. For the first time in ages, she didn't feel alone in her struggle. She glanced at Jake, who had been listening quietly from the corner, his face lighting up with hope and pride. This moment could be a turning point for him, for her, for their community. But just as the excitement reached a peak, the lights flickered ominously. Thunder rumbled again, shaking the diner, a raw reminder that while they could create change, nature had its own plans. Sarah's heart sank momentarily. Leaves rustled outside, an anticipation mixed with anxiety. "Don't let that stop us," someone shouted, rallying the group. "This storm can't ruin our spirit. Let us seize this moment," Sarah exclaimed, emboldened by the wave of support. "Let us show everyone that we won't let fear separate us. We'll rise as one, no matter what comes next." As the storm continued to rage outside, the atmosphere in the diner transformed into a sanctuary of resilience. Ideas flowed freely now, showcasing a shared desire for change and hope. Sarah marveled at how quickly they had shifted from conflict to collaboration. But as the conversation swirled, unfamiliar voices joined in, bringing whispers of doubt and opposition. Among the newfound unity, old grievances and fears began to resurface, some patrons unsure of embracing the changes ahead. In that moment, Sarah realized that the journey was far from over. Uniting her community would take more than a single night of shared dreams. It would require navigating the complexities of their fears and prejudices. What if this isn't just a moment? She thought to herself, concern creeping in. What if we're not ready for what's next? As the storm continued its relentless battering, the questions loomed heavier in the air, ready to challenge their resolve. How far would they go to stand united? Would their newly forged bonds hold strong when faced with the storms of life? With uncertainty ahead, Sarah felt an urgency ignite within her. A glimmer of hope shone through, but she knew the road wouldn't be easy. This wasn't merely about rallying together. It was about facing personal demons, understanding deep-rooted fears, and truly connecting with one another. Holding her breath for a moment, Sarah prepared to address her community once more. A lump in her throat as the flickering lights caught her eye. Would she be able to guide them through the challenges to come? The path ahead felt daunting, but she had seen the light in their eyes, their willingness to change. Sarah stood by the counter, taking a step forward, ready to face whatever storm lay ahead. And then her gaze fell on the door. A shadow loomed just outside, waiting to enter. What would that new presence bring to the diner? The door creaked open slowly, the heavy winds forcing it ajar. A figure stood silhouetted against the flickering light of the diner. For a split second, Sarah couldn't tell who it was. The diner went silent, all eyes shifting to the newcomer. As the wind howled behind him, he stepped inside, dripping from the rain outside. It was James, a familiar face, but one that had been absent for far too long. The tension in the room shifted again, uncertainty replacing the warmth that had just filled the air. James had been a part of their community once, a man full of laughter and light, but life had pulled him away into darkness. "James," Mary exclaimed, her voice breaking the silence like a whistle in the dark. Where have you been?" He looked around, taking in the faces of those who had once been friends, colleagues, neighbors. The joy of seeing familiar faces battled with the weight of the shame he had carried with him. I know I disappeared," he began, his voice shaky. "I thought I could handle my struggles on my own." Sarah's heart ached. She recognized the pain in his eyes. She knew what it felt like to be isolated, thinking you had to face everything alone. The storm outside rumbled again, but it was nothing compared to the internal struggle she could sense in James. "I heard about the fund," he said, stepping more fully inside, water pooling at his feet. "I wanted to help. I've had some time to think, to change." A murmur of confusion spread through the diner. Could he really have changed? Greg, having found his voice again, piped up. "What do you mean? You've been gone, James. How can we trust that you've really changed?" There it was, the old doubt creeping in again, pulling some back into their shells. Yet Sarah felt a spark of hope ignite. If James could face his demons, Maybe it would encourage others to do the same. Because I've learned something, he said, his eyes glistening with emotion. I realized that fear kept me away, fear of judgment. But standing here now, I see how wrong I was. This community has been through so much, and we all need each other more than ever. The atmosphere shifted again, the flickering lights reflecting the wavering hope in the room. Sarah stepped forward, feeling compelled to speak. You aren't alone in this, James. We're all struggling. And we all deserve a chance to rebuild together. Several nods followed, and bits of whisper traveled through the room, casting aside the shadow that once loomed over James. He let out a breath he didn't know he was holding, the acceptance swirling around him like a fresh breeze cutting through the stormy night. Maybe we can organize a support group or something, someone suggested. The idea, simple yet profound, spread quickly among the crowd. The conversation regained momentum. The storm outside a mere backdrop to the warmth bubbling back up inside the diner. As laughter and banter filled the space, Sarah felt her heart swell with pride. They were beginning to embrace their flaws instead of hiding from them. But just when she thought that unity was settled, a voice called out from the corner, full of skepticism. What if this is just a phase? What if we end up hurting each other again? The tension returned, forcing everyone to pause. What if the darkness lurking beneath their optimism could undo everything they had just built? With uncertainty looming, Sarah stood at the front, ready to dive deeper into their hearts. She knew they had a choice to make, but would they be willing to face their fears head-on and risk vulnerability? As she prepared to address the doubts, she felt the eyes on her, their expectations heavy yet hopeful. This moment could embrace transformation, or shatter it. What would she say to hold them together now? Would James's return mark a new beginning or merely a fleeting moment? Sarah took a deep breath, the weight of every gaze pressing down on her chest. She opened her mouth, but for a moment, words escaped her. It was like looking into the eyes of a crowd ready to leap into a vast unknown, waiting for someone to show them the way. Fear is part of change, she finally said, striking the ground with her confidence. But standing here, choosing to trust each other, that's what can push us forward. We've all been afraid of something, but we've also all been brave enough to come here tonight. The murmur softened, the atmosphere shifting again, teetering on the edge of hope and doubt. Letting ourselves be vulnerable? She continued, locking eyes with James. It's terrifying. But maybe it's exactly what we need. Maybe we're stronger together than apart. James nodded slowly, the flickering diner lights reflecting the change in him. I'm scared too, he admitted, his voice a little louder now, filled with raw honesty. But I don't want to hide anymore. I want to help. We can create something better. Not just for ourselves but for each other. His words hung in the air, full of warmth. I think we all deserve a second chance. A voice chimed from the back. It was a woman Sarah recognized, someone who had stood on the sidelines for too long. I've held on to my doubts, but it's suffocating. I'm tired of being alone in this. It's not just you, Greg added, almost defensively. We've all felt that way. Sarah sensed the tide turning. Let us not just talk about what we need. Let us discuss what we can do to rebuild. James can start as our first example, but it needs each of us stepping up. The room buzzed with energy now, eagerness replacing skepticism. People began brainstorming ideas, sharing their own experiences, their struggles. The flicker of hope became a wave, washing over them. Mary jumped up, her face alight with inspiration. What if we start with a group for those who need to talk? A safe space to share? Cheers broke out, a chorus of agreement ringing through the diner. Someone else caught the fire. We could set up regular meetings. Maybe even some events in the community to unite everyone. The ideas multiplied, each one lifting spirits higher. Laughter echoed as they plotted and planned. The storm's fury outside now just a distant hum. Yet the shadow of doubt still lingered. A man, holding on to the end of the counter, hesitated. But what if we try and fail? What if it all falls apart again? His concern hung heavy, draining the atmosphere momentarily. Sarah felt the knot in her stomach twist tighter. They had come so far. That's a risk we take for real connection, she replied, her voice strong yet gentle. Every journey has its bumps. But the beauty of our community means we'll stand up for each other. We have to believe that together, we can catch one another. With that simplicity, she could feel the webs of doubt beginning to weaken. But then James sighed, his expression turning pensive. What happens if someone decides to walk away again? Can we handle that? The question lingered, building tension anew. Fear crept in, whispering of possible losses, familiar ghosts threatening to tear apart their fragile web of hope. Sarah paused, considering each face in the room again, the weight of their stories resting heavily on her heart. After all they had been through, could they truly anchor their futures on faith alone? The moment of truth seemed to arrive. Would they affirm their resilience, or would the storm snatch their courage away once more? As the diner fell silent, Sarah felt the urge to speak again, but now she was unsure. Was she ready for the answer that might emerge? Would rediscovering hope bring them closer, or drive them apart? The silence stretched into something thick and palpable, wrapping around them like a heavy fog. Sarah could feel the weight of the question hanging in the air, pressing against her from all sides. She looked around the room, searching for reassurance in the faces of those who had shared their vulnerabilities. But their eyes, brimming with silent fears and unspoken hopes, only added to her anxiety. What if they fell apart? What if everything they had just shared came crashing down? We have all faced hard times, Sarah said, her voice strong, but a tremor betrayed her. But in those moments of darkness, it was the people around us that helped us find light again. We have to hold on to that. She noticed Mary in the back, her eyes sparkling with determination. We need to set a goal. Something tangible to work towards. That way, if we stumble or someone does decide to walk away, there's still purpose to pull us back. Like a community project? Greg offered, his brow furrowed. Something that requires teamwork? Exactly. Mary jumped in, gaining momentum. Let us combine our skills. What if we host a neighborhood cleanup? Or an art show to celebrate everyone's stories? Something to start mending the bonds, to remind us we're in this together. A murmur of excitement rippled through the group, the gears of enthusiasm beginning to turn again. Sarah could see the fear dimming a little, replaced by flickers of hope sparking in their eyes. But how do we get people to join in? James asked, his thoughtful frown returning. Not everyone will want to open up or commit to something like this. The diner suddenly felt smaller, a shelter from the storm outside, but also a reminder of the walls that sometimes confine them. Sarah leaned forward, locking her gaze on James. This is where we need to lead by example. If we can show our vulnerability, we can invite others to step forward too. That's it, Mary exclaimed. Our stories can be invitations. I don't just want to plan an event. I want people to feel they're part of something. They're part of us. Joy spread through the diner as ideas flowed. People began tossing different possibilities around, energized and connected, laughter blending with hopeful chatter. Words like community began to resonate deeply, kindling a fire among them. But in the midst of their excitement, a gentle voice captured their attention. It was the woman from the back, whose name Sarah still didn't know. I think it could work, but we have to be ready. We should prepare ourselves for the possibility that things might not go as planned. The fear that it won't be enough? Sarah spoke softly, aware of the hesitation that loomed in the room. What if we tackled that fear head-on? What if we create a space where it's okay to fail, as long as we keep showing up? A wave of understanding swept through the diner. It was never about perfection. It was about effort. About heart. And just when Sarah felt they might be turning a corner, an unexpected sound broke through the soft chime of the doorbell. A stranger entered, soaked from the rain outside, oblivious to the electric atmosphere already brewing inside. He paused at the entrance, eyes scanning the room. Sarah's heart raced. Would this newcomer disrupt their fragile moment of unity, or would he bring a new perspective? The diner fell even quieter as everyone turned their attention toward the stranger, their anticipation turning into a collective breath held in promise. What would he bring to this already changed atmosphere? The stranger stepped inside, shaking droplets of rain from his coat. A few seconds felt like an eternity as the crowd absorbed him, assessing whether he belonged in this makeshift family that had been building. He looked around, a slight frown tugging at his lips, as if trying to piece together all the threads of conversation swirling in the air. "Hey there," he called out, his voice cutting through the hushed murmurs. I'm just looking for a place to warm up. Sarah took a breath, desperate to encourage a connection. You're in the right spot. We're just sharing stories and ideas for how to bring our community together. His eyes softened, and for a flicker of a moment, he seemed drawn in by the warmth of the room. Really? That sounds nice. He stepped forward, shaking off his wet hair like a dog. I'm Lucas. Sarah. She motioned to the empty chair beside her. Join us. We were just brainstorming ideas for a community project. As he slid into the booth, the tension in the diner loosened, as if the very act of inviting him in was a bridge to a new sense of purpose. The group introduced themselves, and a gentle hum of welcome enveloped Lucas. So what has you soaked on a day like this? Mary asked, pulling her chair a bit closer, eager to include him. He chuckled, rubbing his hands together. I was at a job interview a few blocks down. Didn't he quite go as planned? Figured I might as well dash into the nearest place to escape the rain. James furrowed his brow. Sometimes things don't go the way we want, right? What kind of job? A server, Lucas replied. I've been trying to get back to it after taking a break. You know how it is juggling life. But hearing you all talk about coming together, it sounds like something I could really use. The excitement in the room shifted slightly. There was something incredibly relatable about Lucas' candidness. A couple of people nodded, their own battles echoing in his words. You're seeking connection too, huh? Greg said, leaning in. We're all just trying to find our way. Why not join our little project? The idea took root and sparked in Lucas' eyes. For real? What's the plan? Mary jumped in, enthusiasm bubbling. We're thinking of a neighborhood cleanup. We'd invite everyone to pitch in. Your story could inspire others. And maybe we could share our experiences while we work, Sarah added. It's about more than just cleaning up, it's about building something together. The atmosphere turned electric again. Lucas looked around, and for the first time his guarded expression softened. I'd love to help. I think it's the kind of thing I need to break this cycle. Just being part of something, knowing we're not alone. As they spoke, something shifted inside each person at the diner. Their hearts, already open from vulnerability, turned to acceptance. Suddenly, the woman from the back, still an enigma, piped up again. What if we make this a tradition? A way to keep that connection alive even after the project? The thought rippled through the group, and excitement flared anew. Yes, community gatherings, Mary exclaimed, her eyes glinting. Each suggestion aimed at solidifying their bonds seemed to gather fuel. Laughter broke out, blending with shared stories and ideas, all sparking a flame of hope that filled the diner. But just as Sarah felt that the group might truly find strength in unity, a flicker of uncertainty crossed Lucas' face. But what happens if we try and it all falls apart? The question hung in the air, and silence returned, thick and palpable once again. Sarah felt her heart race, knowing they had to confront the reality of failure, and the very fears that brought them together in the first place. What would they decide to do next? Would they retreat into doubt, or would they charge forward, embracing the risk for the chance to create something beautiful together? The silence stretched, each face reflecting a different shade of worry. Sarah glanced at Lucas, whose uncertainty felt like a crack forming in the foundation they were trying to build. She had felt that doubt too, the fear of collapse overshadowing the hope for connection. Every project carries risks, she said slowly, looking at each member of the group. But every chance we take brings us closer together. What if we mold our fears into our strength? Yeah, Greg chimed in, his voice gaining momentum. We can learn from each other. If something doesn't go right, it'll just be part of our story. We'll figure it out together. With each encouraging word, the air lightened a little more. Laughter danced between the tables again, but the flicker of doubt in Lucas' eyes remained. He rubbed the back of his neck, as if trying to shake off the weight. Okay, but what if nobody shows up? Lucas pressed, vulnerability draping his shoulders. What if it's just another failure? Then we'll still have each other, Mary responded, her sincerity solid and sure. We'll grow through it together. And who knows? Maybe a smaller group is all we need to start something big. There was comfort in her words, and slowly, the room buzzed with the possibilities ahead. Lucas' shoulders relaxed, the corners of his mouth lifted in tentative hope. I guess I just don't want to feel alone anymore. You're not alone, Sarah said, heart bursting with warmth for the man who had just walked in from the rain. None of us are. We have this chance to turn those fears into something much bigger. We can't let doubt pull us apart. There was a moment of stillness, each person contemplating the power of togetherness. They were a mix of strangers bound by their common yearnings, old wounds that had yet to heal, shared stories that wanted to be told. The diner felt like home, now a sanctuary carved from vulnerability and camaraderie. And let us be honest, James added with a grin, it couldn't be worse than my last neighborhood cleanup where we ended up cleaning more dog poop than trash. Laughter erupted, filling the air with something buoyant. It was all so palpable, this experience of belonging that surged amongst them. Okay, let us set a date for our cleanup, Greg suggested, igniting renewed energy. The chatter flowed, planning and details, everyone chiming in. And for the first time, Lucas felt a part of something. This wasn't just about cleaning streets. It was about scrubbing away despair, one hopeful action at a time. As the evening grew dimmer, the rain started to fade. The world outside was bleak, but inside the diner, laughter and life thrived. People shared more than just plans. They poured out stories, dreams, and laughter that echoed joyfully against the walls. When the clock ticked towards closing time, Sarah looked around, feeling a warmth that had settled in her bones. Let us meet here again next week. We can talk more about our stories and how this is already changing us. Everyone nodded, smiles stretching across faces. Then Lucas, filled with newfound courage, spoke up. I might only be a server, but I'm ready to give back. I think I'll invite everyone from the diner I used to work at. I know they could use this too. A collective cheer erupted, wrapping around Lucas like a gentle hug. But just as they began to settle in their plans, the same enigmatic woman from before rose and raised her voice once more. And what happens when we realize we're not only creating a cleanup project, but something that might change our lives forever? An unexpected hush swept across the diner, questions lingering in the air like the scent of fresh coffee. That curious question hung there, the flicker of transformation echoing deep in their hearts. What did it truly mean to change? How far were they willing to go? The next week arrived with an electric buzz in the air. The diner felt different, charged with anticipation and the weight of promise. Sarah arrived a bit early, wiping down tables and catching snippets of chatter from the small crowd trickling in. Each familiar face seemed brighter, hope radiating from the shared goal of their upcoming cleanup project. As Lucas entered, anxiety danced behind his eyes. He had reached out to old coworkers, but he didn't know who would actually come. He took a deep breath, reminding himself that whatever happened, he wasn't alone anymore. That thought bolstered his confidence. Hey Lucas. Mary waved him over, her smile warm and genuine. We were just discussing what supplies we'll need. You're in charge of snacks, right? His heart skipped. Snacks? Yeah, I can handle that. He grinned, but the truth was, the responsibility felt significant. The smiles and laughter echoed around him, but deep down, the fear lodged a little tighter. What if he failed? As the conversations flowed, James stood up with a coffee cup, gaining everyone's attention. Okay team, I say we come up with a name for our project. Something catchy. More laughter erupted, and soon they were brainstorming everything from clean streets, bright futures to Operation Sparkle. But amidst the humor, Sarah could sense Lucas in the back looking more pensive. Hey Lucas, she asked softly, finding him away from the crowd. What's on your mind? Lucas sighed, rubbing his brow. What if I mess this up? What if no one from my old job shows up? I thought I could take this step, but it terrifies me. You won't mess it up, Sarah responded, her voice unwavering. Each step, no matter how small, is a step towards something greater. You've already brought us all together. That's a huge win. He met her gaze, the doubt softening just a bit. Suddenly, the door chimed, and in walked a handful of Lucas's former co-workers, unfamiliar faces yet so vital to the evening. They waved at Lucas, and he felt something shift inside him, an unexpected surge of confidence. We're here. One of them called out, grinning widely. What's all this about some cleanup party? Lucas's heart swelled. Don't let this moment slip away. We're cleaning up the park this Saturday. It's not just about the trash, it's about coming together. As laughter and greetings surrounded him, A warmth ignited in his chest. Sarah watched, her heart swelling as Lucas blossomed in the spotlight. But as the crowd grew, she noticed the enigmatic woman from before slipping in. She leaned against the wall, her eyes knowing as they swept over the gathering. Her presence felt charged, and Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to her. Just as the chatter hit a peak, the woman raised her hand, captivating the crowd once again. You may be creating something wonderful here, but sometimes change comes at a cost. Are you prepared for what that means? Worry rippled through the diners, faces shifting from joy to uncertainty. What did she mean by cost? With the question now hanging heavily in the air, tension pulled them closer together, fears bubbling just below the surface. Lucas turned to Sarah. Confusion etched on his face. What could she possibly mean? Her mind raced with possibilities. Was it about their pasts, their old wounds? Were they really ready to face the truth behind their transformation? In the midst of their plans and laughter, how were they prepared to confront what change would demand of them? As the lights dimmed slightly in the diner, the energy transformed, leaving room for contemplation. Nothing was certain, and yet everything felt possible. But Sarah couldn't help but wonder what would they uncover when they peeled back those layers? The night settled like a thick blanket over the diner, the warmth of laughter now competing with a weighty silence. Sarah's gaze flicked from the enigmatic woman to Lucas, who seemed frozen in place. The uncertainty hanging in the air was palpable, and her heart raced. Let us not let a single voice drown out the excitement we've built, she called out, trying to inject some light into the gathering. We came here to unite for a cause, right? Let us keep that energy alive. A few nods met her encouragement, but the woman's words had left a mark. As they resumed their conversations, glances were exchanged, uncertainty blossoming among the close-knit crowd. Lucas felt the pressure of the room. He cleared his throat, attempting to reclaim the momentum. Actually, let us make a plan for the cleanup. He forced a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. We can divvy up tasks and figure out logistics. If we stay focused on what we can accomplish together, we won't get lost in whatever that was. A tentative laugh from Mary broke through the tension. Yeah, I like that. Who's up for trash pickup? Hands shot up, enthusiasm creeping back into the meeting. But Lucas couldn't shake the woman's question. The idea of cost echoed in his mind. What if this project didn't just clean up a park, but also uncovered problems within their team? As they outlined the specifics, Sarah leaned closer to Lucas. How are you holding up? She whispered, concern etched in her brow. I don't know, he hesitated, looking around at the faces lit with excitement. What if they show up wanting to dig into the past? What if everything goes sideways? Hey, look at this, Sarah said, gesturing to the group who were now discussing teams over cups of coffee. This is your chance to show everyone they can count on you. You're taking the step. You're already changing things for the better. He nodded, but the flicker of fear remained. Just then the woman stepped closer, catching his eye. The past never truly leaves us, you know? She said quietly, but loud enough for him to hear. To move forward, sometimes we must first confront what we've left behind. Those words hit him hard. The echoes of his past loomed like shadows. Though he wanted to break free from that weight, what if facing it was the only way to finally be free? In an effort to distract himself, Lucas looked back toward the group. They were deep in conversation now, excitement brewing once more. All right, so we'll have snacks, he announced, feeling it was his duty to steer the ship. Who likes donuts? I'm thinking donuts. Laughter erupted, and he breathed easier. Laughter seemed to dispel the dark thoughts, if only a little. But then the woman's gaze bore into him, intense and probing, as if she understood the turmoil churning within. At that moment, Lucas felt the walls begin to close in. Change is a journey, she said softly, simplistic yet profound. But without confronting the cost, that journey cannot truly begin. The laughter faded, and the weight of her words settled around them like a dense fog. Questions bubbled to the surface. The diner was abuzz with ideas. But now a different kind of fear danced amongst the diners, the fear of facing their hidden truths. Lucas met Sarah's eyes across the table, both aware that this gathering was about more than cleaning a park. It was about reconciling with who they were, and who they could become. Would they find the courage within themselves to face what lay ahead? Just as Lucas felt a dawning clarity, the bell above the door jingled once more. A newcomer stepped inside, their aura unfamiliar yet magnetic. Sarah squinted toward the door. Who is that? In that moment, curiosity hung thick in the air, a new thread woven into the fabric of their plans for change. What could this new person reveal to them? The door swung wider, revealing a woman with a gleaming smile and an aura that crackled with energy. She stepped inside, shaking off rain droplets from her dark coat, and her eyes sparkled as she scanned the room. It was as if she were searching for something. And then her gaze landed on Sarah. I heard there was a gathering, she said brightly, her voice warm and inviting. I'm Emily. Mind if I join? Of course. Sarah responded immediately, gesturing to the empty seat. We're just planning a community cleanup. Emily's smile widened. That's perfect. I love the idea of reviving the park. There's something about being outdoors that reconnects us all. As Emily took her seat, the atmosphere shifted again. Almost instantly, Lucas felt the weight of fear lifted, replaced by a sense of camaraderie. Something about Emily was infectious. Her enthusiasm seemed to ripple through the group, lightening their burdens. What gets you excited about community work? Mary asked, leaning in curiously. Oh, so much. I just moved back to town, Emily explained, a sparkle in her eye. I was away for a while, but all I've thought about is how I can make a real difference here. I realized that stepping into our communities can heal us in ways we don't even expect. Lucas felt the warmth of her words weave into his fears. Here was someone who recognized the power of connection without even knowing the struggles each diner had endured. Then, almost instinctively, Sarah found her voice again. You know, Emily, we're learning that change isn't just about the cleanup. It's about facing our pasts and uniting as a community. Her eyes flitted to Lucas, who nodded in agreement. Emily's smile softened, recognizing the depth of this group gathering. Absolutely. But it's also important to celebrate the small victories that come with it. They keep us moving forward. A wave of excitement rippled through the diner. What if we mix celebration with our cleanup? Lucas suggested, emboldened by Emily's presence. We could create a festival vibe. Music, food, stories shared. Let us show up not just to work but to connect. John, who had been quiet up until now, chimed in. Yes. Why not include games or art displays? Everyone could contribute something they're passionate about. Art shows. Mary grinned, her energy bubbling over. I can organize a booth to showcase the kids' artwork. Everyone loves seeing those creations. As ideas flew around the room like confetti, Sarah's heart swelled. They were tapping into creativity, passion, and a renewed sense of community that overshadowed their prior doubts. Emily leaned forward, eyes twinkling. Let us remember, this isn't just a chance to clean, it's a chance to grow together. Think of the bonds we'll create. But just as excitement peaked, the enigmatic woman cleared her throat. You're building something admirable, but remember, change often calls for vulnerability. Be ready for that. Fear crept back in as her words lingered. Could they handle accepting this truth? Lucas looked around, gauging the responses. The room felt charged, anxiety coiling once again. His own heart raced, the same old fears danced at the edges of his thoughts. Let us be honest, Emily said, aware of the tension. Each of us carries our own struggles. It's part of what brings us here. But together, we can face those fears openly. We should encourage real conversation about our journeys and where we come from. She turned to Lucas, who met her gaze. We've all got hard stories, even if we don't share them right away. It's okay to bring those to the table. It's a sign of strength. As Lucas listened, the grip of doubt began to loosen. Here was Emily, someone who had just stepped into their lives, encouraging both vulnerability and unity. Together, we'll frame our narratives in a way that inspires, Sarah added, emboldening Lucas with a gentle smile. Let us create a safe space, where we can be honest about our pasts without judgment. A few murmurs of agreement rippled through. It felt honest, real. And the room began to settle with a warmth, the tension waning as a sense of clarity emerged. Emily clapped her hands together, her enthusiasm infectious. So let us plan. Let us encourage everyone to be part of our journey. And as they mapped out every detail, laughter echoed again in the diner, mixed with renewed purpose. They weren't just planning. They were healing, building something transformative together. But then, as if on cue, the woman spoke once more, her eyes shimmering with something both serious and hopeful. You're vibrating with hope, but do hold on to this. With every bond you forge, your vulnerabilities will also bring challenges. Be prepared for those moments. Her words pierced through the cheer, but this time, it didn't extinguish their spirit. Instead, it ignited a sense of responsibility within them. Could they face the challenges and remain unified? As discussions carried on, Emily leaned closer to Lucas. Don't you feel it? She whispered. This is magic happening, hearts opening. Lucas nodded slowly, a flicker of gratitude forming. He could feel it. They were writing a new chapter. This wasn't just about cleaning a park. It was about healing wounds, embracing change, and facing vulnerabilities together. As laughter filled the room yet again, Lucas found strength to speak openly. His fears had begun transforming into something deeper. A fresh seed planted in fertile ground. Let us meet weekly to share our progress, he suggested, lifting his chin. It'll help keep encouraging us. I know I'll need that. Cheers erupted, and Sarah felt the bond between everyone grow even stronger. They were united in hopes, dreams, and the challenges they would inevitably face together. And as the last remnants of the storm faded outside, laughter danced within the diner, a sound that heralded something beautiful, the promise of a new beginning. The power of change was theirs to embrace. With hearts wide open, they stepped into the next chapter of their stories, ready to transform their lives and their community. So let us stand strong and support each other, believing in the power of rehabilitation and reconnection, hand in hand as one beautiful community. And as this incredible moment unfolded, one question lingered in the air. Would they be able to face whatever came next together? To have this incredible journey continue, don't wait not even one more second. You need to subscribe now to the channel. Hit that bell for all notifications. This is your moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your reactions matter. Comment below and share your feelings about this journey. And please share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful transformation. This is just the beginning, and your support means everything.